Hey friends, Jamie here. Welcome to Satellite Stories, where we interview those who have encountered Jesus through video games and nerd culture. We are part of the LTN Podcast Network, and today we're going to hear another story. Satellite Stories, Episode 3, coming at you. I am going to be hanging out with my best friend in the whole world, Russ, and his wife, Amber, and you're going to hear the amazing, crazy story of how these two passionate followers of Jesus Christ met while we were in high school while playing video games online. I'm excited for this one. I know you've heard of stories like this. Here we go. I'm here with my friends, Russell and Amber. You're going to get to know them here in just a second. But hey, you guys are like my best friends in the world. Just saw you guys this weekend. I thought it was a blast. I want to hear what you guys thought. Tell us a little bit about what we were doing.
So this last weekend, we had two different major events that we had going on.
Who's we?
Oh, sorry, Satellite Gaming.
Yeah, okay.
Satellite
Okay,
Gaming.
cool. Yeah, just the three of us? Just
us three. No. So we had two big events. The first one was our showcase, our gala. That one was awesome for a few different reasons. Really, I think that it's super important during this gala where, all of our supporters, all of our big people who want to come in and really invest into what Satellite Gaming is doing, they have the opportunity to come in and witness firsthand, hey, from the team on the ground, what's going on. And so we had a couple testimonies. One of them that was so great, it felt like it was scripted, like a paid actor kind of thing. Like this kid, he's 14 years old. Awesome. This guy, he really was able to deliver exactly what we were wanting to communicate and show, hey, like this is a real thing that's happening in our community. It's easy to get lost in the weeds of saying like, hey, we're doing video game ministry. Well, this is what it looks like.
Are you? What is yeah.
This is a kid whose life was transformed because of the relationship that we're building and how we're pointing them to Jesus. But I mean, he did it so well. It was like, holy smokes, this guy's awesome.
It was great.
It's crazy. Someone came up to me afterward and he's like, okay, so this is how you work with like the eloquent, middle schoolers. How do you work with the awkward ones? And I'm like, bro, you have not seen this kid off the stage. Okay. Like no dig on Dante. He's dope. All middle schoolers are awkward, right? The Holy Spirit, man, that kid, he killed it. He killed it. Okay, so a couple more things on the showcase, and then Amber will tell us what we did on Friday. So this is Thursday. We're hearing testimonies. What else took place on the showcase, Russ? This is good.
Yeah, so Jess and David also had an opportunity, other than like you and Nathan had another testimony kind of thing that you guys did, but then Jess and David did this kind of like almost like a skit. And really what it did is it went into, okay, so you guys have heard all about Satellite Gaming. You've heard all about like our mission. Like we push our mission statement super hard because, well, it's very important. But okay, so what do you actually do? How do you actually do it? Those were all questions that were answered, and you went through our process. And I think that's really important for people especially for people who are trying to be involved, especially on like a supporter level, because it allows them to have a connected or bridged understanding of, okay, so when you're talking about like, hey, we have a mission statement, but how does it work? That's what where that connection comes in, and it makes sense.
Yeah. What does it actually do? Okay, cool. So we could get into the weeds a bit on that, but there's the showcase. I like it. Amber, you're up. This is a test. What did we do on Friday?
Friday was yes, I do. I was taking notes.
Okay, good.
It was our community event. And so it's really focused on just connecting in with obviously the local community, whether it be youth groups, churches, or just the school down the street where we're doing clubs at, or somebody who got a flyer from a friend. It's like, hey, let's all come together. We're doing tournaments. We got Smash Bros. We got Fortnite. We got Minecraft, like trying to get all the big hitters, get the kids in there, like actually out of the basements into the event and make them all feel like the athletes that they are. And man, it was awesome. It was so cool to see all the kids just like up there, they're at their stations or whatever, or they're just getting pizza. You could tell they were really excited to be there. Yeah. And it definitely filled a need, I think, that a lot of those kids needed.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. Now you guys have been my friends for a while. Again, I mean, I've known Russ pretty much my whole life. Amber, we'll talk about how we all got introduced. So that's kind of why we're here, right? But we're just kind of we're treading the water a little bit, figuring out who you guys are. Now, this is your first time, even though you've known me forever, this is your first time really being at a satellite gaming event, right? I think, Russ, you went to something in like Idaho with me one time. Maybe you were there for a little bit, but yeah. This was like your first real satellite gaming experience. What's like, before we get into your story, tell us like maybe keep it brief. So Amber, if Russ starts rambling, just like, nudge him a little bit. Real brief. Give me a nugget. Like what did you walk away with? What was the most inspiring piece for you of either the showcase or the community event?
So I think I have two things.
Oh, see, you got tap him. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sorry.
Okay, real quickly then.
Okay,
the first
you're good.
is number one, the opportunity that we have to highlight how special a student is. It was so awesome and amazing to be able to like, it takes, not to sound like lazy, but it takes almost no effort to care. And that's exactly what you can do is you can go up to a student and you can be excited and celebrate their success or whatever they are doing with them. And it just goes a super long way. The second thing is really the community aspect. I mean, it is a community event, and truly what we're doing is building relationships. These kids were excited just to be with other people. And then to also be celebrated at the same time, it's an amazing experience for them.
Yeah, I love it. Amber, what you got? What's your takeaway?
I think a lot of it was the same, just kind of like making those connections with kids and setting up a space for them to like totally be themselves. I mean, I saw so many kids there like pulling out tablets with like, hey, I drew this, or like just being like, now we're friends, like on the playground, you run up to a kid, now you're best friends. That was happening at every station. You were just next to the person, so that was your new friend. And I don't know. I don't know.
Get knocked out of Fortnite like early, but at least the guy sitting next to you did too. So you just talk for the next 15 minutes. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
that's cool. I love that.
Great.
So let's bring it now to you guys. Let's transition to that. And when we were teenagers, there was not anything like satellite gaming, not even like close, dude. And it's actually probably good because it's all I would have spent my time doing. I had already spent enough time with video games. Like, I mean, I don't know. I say it would be good. I don't think so. I needed it. I needed something like something. It's crazy to think about. Reality is it wasn't there. So for us playing video games, what did that look like? 100 years ago, whatever. we're all this like close to the same age. What did that look like, roughly 20 years ago, which is crazy to think about.
Well, remember, that's how actually Jamie and I became friends, was through a video game. I mean, I remember I was in Walmart and I saw the cover art for this like a strategy game, right? And I was like, I don't know if this is like, if that's me, I don't know. It seems kind of nerdy. There's that dude at school. Like we fought over like
nerdy.
we fought over girls and all that kind of stuff. Like he likes this stuff. I think I'll go ask him. And that's how we became friends, is talking about video games.
Yeah, and I'll say the game, dude, Final Fantasy Tactics, bro. Let's just let it loose.
That was it.
Some good and very stupid memories falling asleep playing that game, dude. Who played that way too much. It was like spring break. I'd stay at your house, you'd stay at my house, I'd stay at your house, and we just tote the video game with us wherever we went. Oh my gosh. So that was us. Now, Russ and I, here we are, in Idaho, good old Nampa Christian, and we're arguing about girls one day, talking about Final Fantasy Tactics the next day, and then best friends and accountabilities partners for life, within probably 6 months of Final Fantasy Tactics. And Amber, we didn't even know you existed. Where were you this whole time?
I was rotting in my room in Michigan.
Rotting in my room in Michigan. That sounds horrible. So you were a gamer. You were in your gamer den just doing your own thing. I actually don't know a lot of like pre-Russ Amber. Like I don't know a lot of that. So like what was that like? What was that like? What did you do?
So primarily I grew up homeschooled. So add that in to the whole image that you're getting. And I was just kind of finding ways to fill my time, I had come to a point in my
By
life
the way,
where,
real quick, I'm sorry, your paid actors in the background are doing great. We're making it look like you guys have grown and had a. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, continue. What was
Yeah.
Amber's life like before we knew you? Yeah.
I grew up in a Christian home, and I think like a lot of kids who had that, you come to an age where you sort of have to decide, is this something my parents believe? And now is it something I personally believe? And I'd come to that point sort of in my mid-teens where I was like, okay, this is my own, it's my faith now. I have been saved by grace. And I was trying to
I
figure
believed
out.
at 5, by the way.
He gets more
At
points than me.
5? Yeah, you were
Jesus
just
loves
like, I
me.
get it,
That's
dude.
all I needed.
Dude, yeah. Oh, man.
Go on, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got your little adventure Bible, and you're like, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so
I had,
Rusty is better than us. Go ahead.
Okay. So with that, okay, let's see what I can do. So I kind of come to the point where I had realized that, all I have is really like the mission in front of me, right? And I had had some friends who kind of were feeling the same as me and a lot who weren't. So I started pulling away from my social groups, which meant I didn't have any social groups. So
Oh, no.
I really got into a lot of like, we'd always had video games in the house, but like my brother got me a subscription to like World of Warcraft for my birthday. We got a Xbox and got Halo, so I kind of just sunk into those things. And I was like, well, maybe I can just kind of like, if I have interactions with people, I can try to like shine the light of Christ there, kind of thing.
Okay.
And so
were you any good at it, or was it like total middle school awkward? Like, I'm on WoW and I love Jesus. Like, yeah.
Yeah, probably. Although I don't think I really talked to anybody. So,
Oh, okay.
I
You did a
guess
great
that
job.
mission,
Good job.
wasn't really accomplished. But just like you, like there was no satellite gaming.
Yeah.
There was people trying to do like weird internet cafes and stuff, and that's kind of creepy, and it cost money, and I didn't have any money. So yeah, I was just kind of doing that, and it's kind of depressing and kind of lonely, but I learned some video games.
Okay, so now we enter into why I have you both here. So I'm going to do this a little differently than I was going to. But if you have not been listening so far, wherever you might be, if you're in your car, if you're at home, this is the moment you need to hear. I have my best friend Russ and his amazing wife Amber on this call because the two of you were from different parts of the United States. And when we were teenagers, I don't know all the details. I mean, I probably know more than I give myself credit for, but the two of you met while playing Ragnarok Online, an MMORPG. And now it is 2024. For those not on video, there are humans in the background, humans that are your children, and you love Jesus, they love Jesus. Here we are 20 years later because you and Russ met playing Ragnarok Online. And that is the story we're going to tell today. So here, this is where you guys just take it away. Throw us into Ragnarok Online. What is like, whatever freshman, sophomore Rusty doing that results in him meeting Amber? Tell us about it. Let's go. This is story time.
Well, to be a little bit more on the brief side without going into all the details, I would say that there's a whole bunch of stuff as far as like our meeting goes, our digital meeting, right? I can see maps. I can see our characters. I remember all this kind of stuff. And actually, there's a little bit of conflicting.
Like you guys remember it differently?
A little, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
like
I
Rusty's
remember,
like, I was this really cool guy, and Amber's like, you were this dork, dude.
No,
not quite that. So I remember before, because I had like a couple different characters, right? And so like I remember the first time we met, Amber doesn't quite remember that. But then there was another time where we met up again, and I don't remember if Amber knew who I was at that point, or if we were just starting to really build the friendship then. I was super annoying. Amber was like a character
I don't remember that.
who could really help out others. And I had this character that for whatever reason had this ability to like cause your own teammates to have like to get frozen in place. And it was by telling bad jokes, because like in like Asian culture, they say like a bad joke is really cold. Well, that's like super cold, right?
Okay.
And so what would happen though is that you'd actually freeze your party members, not yourself. Well, you could freeze yourself, but your other party members would be totally debilitated. And she was like, it was so annoying.
I was just trying to help him, and he kept doing this,
What
and I was
was
like,
this like some kind of bard? Like what
it
is this?
was.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
bard. Okay, okay. So they impact like the morale of the group and okay, okay. That is so funny. So far, is this what you remember, Amber?
Yeah, just it was
Yeah.
like conflicting maps and towns, because
Okay.
it's like a online MMO kind of thing where lots of people log on.
Right, right. Okay.
So where
Okay.
we really started hitting it off is eventually on like my main character, when we were kind of partying and talking and all that kind of stuff. There was one night where Amber was like, "Hey, I gotta go," and it was at a time like during the day where I was like, "I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I had a feeling because it was Wednesday night that Amber was going to go to church." And so
Yep.
I said,
Awanas,
"Where?"
baby.
And so
Yeah.
being like the 15 or 16-year-old I was like, "Where are you going?" You know? And she was like, "Oh, I'm going to church." And I was like, "Confirm, knew it." And so then that is actually how our friendship started. And here's why I think that's important. Now as a 35, almost 36-year-old, I've looked back at that moment several times because we've been married now for almost 16 years. Um, and it's important because we were both looking for community. And so now as I have the ability to reflect with, a whole bunch more life experience than rather than, freshly, into my tweens, um, I was looking to share my faith with other people that were also interested in the same things. Because I mean, yeah, like there's a bunch of nerds at school, but not a lot of people were as nerdy as like Jamie or I, right? We were pretty nerdy.
No, they weren't as cool as us either.
True, true. No, but I think that's what people from all walks of life want to do. They want to be able to share what they're interested in with other people. And well, I mean, obviously we're playing the same game, so we have the same interest. But then even greater than that was the interest in Jesus, our creator, the
Yeah.
person who loves us.
That's awesome. Now I can tell, like, I mean, now you guys have kids. Beautiful story after that. I can tell that there's like some really cool special moments before we get to that, like, the more intimate, like special, beautiful moments, growing in our faith, all that. I gotta hear some of this from Amber's perspective. Like, what was what was just 16-year-old dorky online Rusty like? What do you remember? Do you have any specific moments where you're like, this dude's weird? Or were you just like head over heels right away?
I mean, the initial like party was a little frustrating, um, in the
The one
sense
where
that
he's
like,
freezing everyone?
yeah, and
Was it on
but
purpose?
yeah, you had to like purposely cast it.
Well,
Okay.
to help give context, it had to be extra annoying because I was getting helped. Amber was helping me get better while I'm annoying her.
Okay. So not much has changed in 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I feel like for the most part, he was really personable and fun and considerate. Not everybody online
Cool.
is. And so I think that even though that was kind of like a funny little frustration moment, it was okay. It didn't bother me. Like,
Yeah.
obviously the next time that I was online and he was online as well, I still talked to him. And so, you are trying to like build that community online, so you do recognize people. So, yeah, he was pretty cool. He would like ask me like, what shows do you watch, anime and stuff like
Cool.
that. And like nobody around me was really interested. I had like one friend at the time who tolerated it. Later, I met another really close friend who just loved it, and she draws and everything like that. But in that time that I first met him, I didn't have anybody to talk anime with. I didn't have anybody to talk video games with. No Sims like comparisons and stuff like that. So it was
Okay.
he did he was a good friend.
Okay. So now you're playing video games online, you're in each other's parties, like, aside from freezing all your allies, it's actually like a pretty like peaceful experience. When did things start turning into like, okay, is this like more than friends? Is that even allowed online? And what was this, 2003? Like what in the world is happening? Where did things start shifting?
Well, yeah,
And how
so
was, I want to ask this too, and how was Jesus involved? That to me is like the most beautiful thing we can capture. So like, how did it start to happen, and where was Christ in all of this?
so I think that the big thing for us has always been Jesus. We became like friends right when we started sharing our faith. Uh, that is really where the friendship really started. Because I mean, like we were like online friends-ish in the game before that. Like we would hang out and talk, but we became like really like friends after we discovered that we both love Jesus, and that was the turning point. From there, it carried off into like MSN Messenger. I don't remember if anybody remembers that, but we used that to communicate, and that's where we started growing closer in that. And then we were friends probably for like another year and a half before we started actually dating. So we developed a friendship um, over a year and a half at that time. And then like and actually during that time when we were developing our friendship, I was dating another girl at school. And then once that, didn't work out, um, I knew instantly like I have something very special with Amber. She is
I remember
like,
that because this isn't like bad. We're teenagers, right? But like I remember you talking to Amber about your struggles with your girlfriend. Like like, right. I'm remembering that correctly, aren't I?
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember that too.
We were allowed to do that. We were teenagers. We're trying to figure things out. And what I remember is the conversations with Amber where I was tripped out is I was like, how are your relations with Amber? Because like we were strong and still are strong accountability partners, right? Like we told each other everything, all the struggles that like teenage guys have, adult men have, like to this day, we are accountability partners. And I remember thinking like, okay, it's super weird that you're talking to a girl online. It's super weird that you're talking to her about your girlfriend, but everything you're talking about reflects the heart of Jesus. And like all the girls that we chase, like outside of that, I was like, I don't have that relationship you have with Amber or whatever. I didn't even know if I think mixtape like on Halo is like what you went by.
Gosh.
And I'm
You're
like,
right.
like,
Yes.
yeah. It was a long time ago. I remember that. But like, I'm thinking like everything you talk about her seems to be like Jesus centric. And then all these other girls, it's like, because believe it or not, Amber, believe it or not, you boys had some game back in the day, okay? Like, we
got to go back in time for that.
I can go back in time. You can ask our moms. People liked us. Not kidding. So, but it was. I think that was what was hard for me. Was I was like, oh, like you're gonna start taking girls serious now and like making it about Jesus, okay? And I was tripping out because I'm like, dude, this girl is online. What are you doing? So from my perspective, I was concerned, but also like intrigued. And then I remember, I'll zoom up a little bit. I remember you saying like, dude, I think I'm going to go visit her. And I was like, what? What? Your parents are how crazy? And you have amazing parents. You had very, very probably what we thought was too present of parents, right? Your parents were like, we felt like at the time they were way too present. And now as adults, we're like, we're so grateful for that. But like, how did you make that happen? Like, how did your parents agree? Like, Amber, what were your parents? Like, what did this look like?
So I think that, and okay, so this is coming now, not from the perspective of a teenager, but from the perspective of an adult with children. Okay. So, involvement. Absolutely, involvement. So my parents, although they gave me quite a bit of space to kind of play video games and do all that kind of stuff, and same with Amber, they were still involved, right? So by the time that I was actually like dating Amber and really cared deeply about her, we were at the point where we would share webcam video and all that kind of stuff. So I would show my parents who Amber is, and then she would show her mom and dad who I was. And so involvement was really key there, because I think that we'll probably get into this later, but I'm looking, could my kids replicate what Amber and I did? And I'm like, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah. So how old were you at this time? Like when you went to go visit her for the first time?
Okay. So by the time that I actually went to go visit her, I think I was 17 and a half.
Okay. So that's pretty good. So, but when you're talking, you're meeting, you're showing each other on webcam, like let's say 16, maybe 15, probably 16.
Okay. I would say by the time that we're actually seeing each other on webcam, I was 17 by then. Yeah. Amber was almost 18.
Okay. So without sharing too much of like, you guys can share this if you want, but without me sharing like your kid's age and name and experience, let's say your daughter is 16, 17 and says, "Hey dad, look at my boyfriend," and he's on a webcam and he's some dude with like early facial hair. Like what?
So
what does that look like?
There is going to be a tremendous amount of involvement. I think that there's factors, right? There's so many different factors you have to consider. Like, number one, how real is this? Is this AI generated? Like that's not something that we had to think about when we were kids. And then obviously, hey, what's this guy's story? Does he love Jesus? Because if he doesn't love Jesus, then there's got to be some talks, because
no, that's crazy. Amber, from your perspective and the interactions you had with Russ, maybe with his parents, your parents, I mean, I'm really seeing where Jesus was in this. And what I know about you guys is this is not like fluffed up for some like Jesus podcast. This is how you guys live your life, right? Like Jesus centric. So at the time, I imagine, you have your own faith. It's you've discovered what that looks like outside of your parents. But as it pertains to this potential man in your life, your parents have to be involved. So what did that look like?
I think that for a lot of
tell about the first time I called.
Oh my gosh. I was
on landline. Was this the landline?
On my cell phone, my flip phone.
Razor.
I did not have a Razor. I had something else, and Sony Ericsson or something. I don't know.
Okay. Let's go.
Okay. So in general, I think my parents, they were very involved in my life. And so I think that they put a lot of trust in me, and I valued the trust greatly because I had a lot of freedoms. And so I did do a lot of talking with my mom specifically.
So what you're saying is you were more respectful to your parents than Rusty and I were to ours. Okay, got it.
I don't know. And so as I was like kind of creating these different relationships online, I was pretty open about them to her about, just that I spent a lot of time online. So she knew who Rusty was. She was involved. We talk. I mean, there'd be a few times he'd be like needing advice and I'd hand the phone over and she'd talk to him and things like that. But the very first time, you guys might have had game in high school. I did not. I was not even in the game. Nobody ever asked me out. I did not have a single, nothing, right? The first boy who ever called my home called so I could show him how to defrag his computer. I was a huge nerd, right? So
that's amazing.
We're driving to my grandma's house Christmas Day, and my phone starts ringing, and it's Rusty. And my dad is just like, "Who is that?" Of course, it's probably someone just helping with the computer again, right? But no, it was so embarrassing. And so, I'm trying to answer, "Hi, I'm in the car with my family," and he just wanted to keep talking. He had just gotten his cell phone for Christmas. He wanted to keep chatting. And it was, I was like, I gotta go, man. It's Christmas. I gotta go. It was pretty embarrassing.
Was that just the end of it? You hang up on him?
No, he was nice about it, and I don't know. I think we talked later that night, but I was pretty open with it. So by the time that I was starting to think hey, I think I really like this guy. My mom kind of knew what was going on. She didn't pry a whole bunch, and I think that she probably looks back and goes hey, I should have done this or that different. But I think she handled it great. And then my dad was just kind of like a supervising kind of surface level sort of thing, and she would relay to him a lot of stuff. But I definitely had come to the point where I had realized I couldn't find anybody around me who I felt measured up to him. I felt like he was sort of my yardstick going forward for a relationship, and I was bummed. And then it was sort of oh wait, I think he likes me too. And but we didn't officially start dating until we did meet in person. That's when we were okay, now we're actually boyfriend and girlfriend. And we had a pretty big basis.
Yeah, well, because I was getting bugged at school, and I didn't want to say that I had a girlfriend and she's only online, right? So once I had met Amber in person, it was okay, no, I have a real girlfriend. I met her.
Yeah, and she's not 40.
Yeah, exactly. Or a dude.
Or a dude. Yeah. I mean, man, I do remember you going, and I don't think I was a very supportive friend at in you going, but I think that's kind of fair, okay? Because I'm this is crazy. But I remember you're dude, I'm going, and when you told me you guys were dating, I was all right, bro, cool. That's I didn't have, what could I say? I'm can I still play Halo with her? I think it's one thing, cause I remember, I think I think Amber and I don't remember playing a lot of Halo with you guys, but Halo was my game. You guys played Ragnarok and a few others. Russ and I, we played like some Command and Conquer, Red Alert, but I remember playing Halo with Amber more than playing with Russ. Like, is that what you guys remember? Like, I think it was only like one session, but it was like, I was at Rusty's house and I remember Russ didn't want to play Halo, but you and I wanted to play her. Like, forget him. I don't know. You played Metal Gear Solid for like the 1 millionth time or something while we played Halo. And like, that's
right.
Yeah, that's one of the only times aside from the Halo parties we had later. Like, that's the only time I really remember playing Halo with you guys. I honestly, what it was is like most of the time when we play games, like we're close to even. Right. But anytime there's a game where one of us is better than the other one, we just don't play it together. Like, I think still to this day that stands true. But so, OK, now there's so much we can unpack and so much that I just want to reminisce on. But for the sake of those listening or those tuning in, I want to think about the different types of people that might be listening and might want to hear what you have to say. And I think it could be people of faith that don't understand video games. What I want them to hear is like, hey, this can be used for good. For people of faith who love video games and play them, it's kind of affirmation like, hey, you can find your spouse, man. You can find, but for even people that just, I don't know, maybe don't share in our faith. That's okay. I hope they still tune into the podcast, but I think I want them to hear like video games can be used for good. And I think a lot of those things have been heard, but as you think of people and the different perspectives, like some might be skeptics, some might be like overly zealous about the online world, right? Like how do you strike a balance again, as you raise kids in today's world, as you know, people that are meeting others online, like what does a healthy balance look like now? What did it look like then? You know, cause like it can't just be, run, to your kid, like, yeah, girl, just, let loose online and meet your spouse. See ya. Like, how do you find a balance for that? I imagine it's kind of terrifying.
So let me start by saying that, we live in a totally digital world now. Whether it's video games or something else, people are meeting on the online space. So like I have a new set of friends that Amber and I just met like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And they met on an online dating app. They just recently got married and now they're fundraising to go be full-time missionaries in India.
Seriously. Wow.
Yeah, it's
I actually
very
didn't
cool.
know that. That's cool.
Yeah. We're going to have them over for Thursday. For dinner on Thursday. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Wow.
Anyway, so the reality again though is that people are meeting online. Now for those of us who care about video games, the same thing is true, is that you're meeting people online unless you're playing like a single game in your house and you're not online. Well, okay, that's a different
Right.
story. Got it, right. But you can meet people online. And I think that the number one thing that you have to consider above all else is Jesus.
Yeah.
At least as far as Christians go, right? Like, so Amber and I, we became friends because of Jesus. We were just online, like acquaintances / kind of like friends, but we really became friends when we started finding out, hey, you love Jesus, I love Jesus. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that's also important too, because people use video games as an escape a lot of times, just as anything else. It could be like, it could be music or sports. And so if Jesus is not is not a pillar of someone's life and is not like the cornerstone of their life, you run into issues where
Mm.
when one person says that, hey, I want to spend less time on video games than I used to because there's certain parts of my life that I want to grow. If the other person doesn't also have Jesus as the cornerstone, that could be some issues for the relationship where
Yeah.
the other person may not want to grow. And so you really got to consider the core of the relationship really needs to be based around Jesus and not based
Right.
around anything else. Not just because it's video games, but it has to be based upon Jesus.
So I have a question for Amber, if that's okay, based on what you're saying. And that is, you mentioned earlier, I can't remember your exact words, but something like, oh, I spent a lot of time in my dungeon or whatever. You
Yeah.
implied like you did escape, right?
Yeah.
Now you meet this dude who has, a serious relationship with Jesus. Again, has friends that hold him accountable spiritually, is interested in a life of ministry and missions. And now suddenly when you are playing your games, it, based on what I'm seeing, like that's probably some of your most like intimate moments with Jesus is by having conversation with this now man of God that you're spending this time with. Would you say that like video games became a place where that was your solace? That was no longer a dungeon, but it was where you were experiencing the love of Jesus, maybe even the most for some seasons of your life?
Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't even have like a really big youth group or anything like that. And so I really just relied on a lot of the conversations we would have. I would, be going through a hard time, be kind of like depressed or whatever, and he would always be like, like Teen Bible Challenge. He'd have a verse for me, and just kind of like pointing me forward
Even
with like,
if I know Russ, even when you're not asking him for it, you're just trying to complain. He's like, "This is what Jesus says." I'm like, dude,
yes,
I don't really, I care what Jesus says, but right now I just want to be bad. Like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I love it. We need that.
It was very encouraging, and I did have a lot of times, a lot of conversations. It wasn't just like, "Oh, I think you're so cute." A lot of our conversations were seriously just about like, "Hey, here's what I'm going through, and here's how we do that, as we grow and as we're growing in our faith." And just kind of giving insight to each other, and a lot of like deep, like bone deep conversations were had, 2 a.m. or whatever, when I probably should have, been sleeping because I had to do math stuff in the morning or whatever. But like
Hey, I
seriously,
wasn't being that bad because I was 2 hours behind. Okay?
yeah, that's
Hey,
true.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very much a place where I would have really great conversations and a lot of growth in those years where I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. I had no idea. He's praying for me. We were praying together, and that's like I'm going to go to Bible college. I'm just going to do that, and just kind of a pivot. Like I had no idea what I was going to do when I was just sitting in my basement being depressed. I was like, I don't know, I'll work at Walmart or something. But then just like I'm going to do Bible college, and it has just been a crazy roller coaster ride that's been super fun ever since.
That's so cool. So a couple moments that I remember as we zip along to the end of the story. I remember Russ, through part of your senior year, we lived together. We lived in my house with my family, and Amber actually joined. But obviously, being the good Christian kids we were, my parents were like, "Hey, Amber's on this side of the house. Jamie, you share this futon with Russ." I mean, we have some crazy stories that are not safe to share on this podcast about how dumb Rusty and I were. I remember moments where Amber would be sitting on the couch innocently, and we'd randomly show up, and let's just say the craziest way we could possibly show up in a living room. I think she's like peacefully trying to watch a show, and we turn into like tribal idiots and just run around like crazy and make all the noises. And poor Amber, somehow you still stuck it through. And now I got to watch you guys go to Bible college. Beautiful wedding. I was just talking about it. You guys got married at the most beautiful location. It was like, I still remember there's like wine aged barrels in the background. Just people today. And I was telling Russ in 2024, that's like what people want in a wedding is what yours looked like 20 years ago. So I think for the first time in Rusty's life, he was like ahead of the curve with style. And I was like, dude, that's amazing. I kid, but now again, all these moments that I point out now. Fast forward, Russ, we haven't said it yet. You're the chair of the board at Satellite Gaming. You guys have been on missionary journeys together, not just seasonal missionary, but you guys were missionaries in another country for years, right? And now raising kids as followers of Christ that are awesome gamers. I mean, let's do this. Let's kind of begin to wrap it up by sharing this moment where you meet each other online, you grow in your faith together, you fall in love with each other, you fall more in love with Jesus. Speak to how that moment of meeting each other and spurring one another on toward love really did change the trajectory of your life. Like again, at Satellite Stories, we're speaking about moments where Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and video games collide and meet a person where they are. That moment resulted in your lives being forever changed. Like speak to that. How does your life look? You don't know, obviously, because you don't know what it would like if you didn't meet, but speak to how you think meeting one another impacted the trajectory of your life in a spiritual way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I was in a place, I think even from like sophomore kind of area where I knew I wanted to go to Bible college. And I was thinking, like Northwest Nazarene University. And so when Amber got to the point, because she was a year ahead of me, when she was looking at what do I do with my life, I was like, why don't you just tithe 2 years of your life? You don't even have to complete Bible college, but why don't you just go to Bible college while you try to figure that out? You cannot do worse than just go to develop your relationship with Jesus. And then so Amber was
That
part
was
of
something one of our mentors, Al Cinnamon, taught us. I don't know if that's where you
yes, he
heard
did.
that.
That's
Dude,
100%
that's
where I heard that.
crazy.
All
We love you,
right.
Al. We love
100%.
you, Al. That's crazy. That's what I did too.
100%.
Wow.
Yep.
Whoa, wise words. Okay, continue. That's crazy.
Very.
We've never talked
So,
about that. That's so
yeah, so Amber was with Calvary Chapel and went to Calvary Chapel Bible College in Costa Mesa. Well, not Costa Mesa, but in Southern California. And I decided to follow her the next year because after comparing NNU versus Calvary Chapel Bible College, now NNU is a fully accredited Bible college that will give you like a real bachelor's degree and
it's a university, right? Like it's
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
and CCBC is an unaccredited Bible college. It's a 2-year program. I think they have other stuff you can do with them now, but either way, um, at the time it was only a 2-year unaccredited theological degree. And I very much did take Al's words to heart, where I was looking to tithe, and also it
Yeah.
was substantially cheaper. And I was like, great, let's go tithe our time and then figure out what we want to do with our lives. Because I already knew I wanted to marry Amber. I think I proposed when we were in when I was in high school and you were in Bible college still. But
Yeah.
and then from there, there's some really cool stories. I won't get into it here about God leading us over to Japan and then being missionaries for a couple years in Japan. Um, really cool stuff that happened through there. And I would say that that was one of the biggest things that from our meeting that heavily impacted our lives spiritually is that we encouraged each other and we both went to go seek the Lord further in Bible college together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember like one of the times I came to, I think it was your wedding when I came to visit you and I said goodbye. I bought this like Yoshi plushie. And I remember I think I cried a ton. I don't know if you cried or I remember just crying because I was like, this sounds horrible, but I was like, I'm not his best friend anymore. Dude, I remember that. And I was so happy about it. Like I was so like, okay, like, wow, this is intense. And I still have that Yoshi plushie now. I still have it. It's like my daughter like snuggles with it and slobbers on it and stuff. But man, what a beautiful moment. And now I think I'll try to land the plane this way. I'm gonna ask Amber a question. Amber, so as what people perceive as the minority of gamers, a girl who is a gamer, who met her husband playing online, who loves Jesus. Every sentence I say, narrower and more narrow and more narrow and more narrow. Like you are a phenomenon, right? Like there are not many stories like this, but it might almost even seem like this all this sounds so crazy. You're such a minority in this story that like it could be made up, but it's not. Like this is crazy. So what would you say maybe to followers of Christ that don't understand the video game world? You are this like rare, unique individual. Your story, what can that say to people that might be passionately in love with Jesus, but very confused about like, why video games? And at Satellite Gaming, we primarily work with youth. Let's take that out of it. Think of like maybe a pastor, like somebody who is genuinely in love with Jesus, does not hate or despise us as people, but maybe just has this real awful view of video games, and probably rightfully so, right? Because if you don't speak video game language, there's a lot of stuff about video games that just seems horrible, you know?
Sure.
So speak to maybe that person that is a pastor, just loves Jesus, but just doesn't get video games. So share your perspective. I think you have a really unique perspective. So speak to that.
I guess I would say that it is a very unique position when you have people who are involved in something you don't understand. And I think it's really easy to completely just cut it off. And I did get a lot of pushback like from my pastor and people who I looked up to until they kind of pushed me down. And I
Wow.
started getting that pushback, and that could have been the moment where I was like, I'm done, and I could have walked out. Right now, I didn't want that. Right, my heart was to keep following the
Yeah.
Lord, but I was surprised at some of the people that were supposed to be the spiritual leaders in my life who were just looking at me and seeing the areas that were society was telling them I was a failure at. And instead of trying to meet me, they just kind of tried to fix me. And I didn't like
Wow.
the thought that I needed to be fixed all the time because I was like, I mean, God made me who I am. And he says that that's a masterpiece, right? So I think that like be open and be pliable to see like maybe God's doing something in a way I'm not familiar with. Doesn't mean you have to become an expert in it, but like we talk about at Satellite Gaming, it's just something sort of like, how was that game? Or I just saw that was in the news, like that just came out. Do you play that game? Like even simple things, even if you don't have a long conversation, can really go a long way to showing people that you care, when I think a lot of people do. But words can show you don't care as well.
Wow. So if there's one thing that you hear in this podcast, it's what Amber just shared. No, that was beautiful. Like, I really think that the Lord is going to speak to some hearts through that. So I appreciate that. And I think to sum that up, I would say to people that don't understand video games, see it as a mission field.
Yeah.
Put on that mindset of like, how would you go into a mission field to passionately show Jesus? You wouldn't go in opposing everything that culture does and speaking negatively about it. You would go into that culture, maybe not agreeing with it, but curious about that culture and maybe even finding beauty in that culture once you begin to understand it. Wow. Amber, that was beautiful. I really appreciate that. I think what I would say, and maybe the last thing that I want to hear from you guys is, what would you say to people, maybe single individuals? Let's think about that for a moment, like single individuals. Cause right. Like I think something that's kind of crummy about our culture is what I've learned is like, always like, hey, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? It's like, yeah. You guys spend a lot of time as friends, just as friends. So how can you speak to just maybe not as a married couple, but just as friends, as brothers and sisters in Christ? Like, what does it look like, and what did it look like to just enjoy video games, just playing them and spurring people on toward love? Again, take out the fact that you're married, but you guys still play video games. You guys still play video games. How are you? We
will,
like,
when we're done.
Yeah, you will. You're like, Jamie, shut up so we can play. Like, but seriously, like, what does it look like to just have a gaming session that just honors God with your friends, with people you care about? What does that look like? Because if people can walk away with that, I think it'll be really helpful. So what does it look like to just have a good old gaming session with your best friend?
Sure.
What do you think?
A lot of times it's a lot of asking, hey, what do you want to play? What do you want to play? Sure, whatever. But yeah, you find
So
something.
it's like other couples in Netflix. What do you want to watch?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, yeah, it's very similar to that.
But I would say we've had people talk about our online space a few times. That they're like, sometimes I hang out with some friends, and as soon as that one guy gets off the call, everyone just trash talks him. And as we play with you guys, you don't do that. People get enough of that, like just at work, hearing that chatter online, it kind of pushes people down a lot. And so I think that that's something that would make it different with us, is that we hopefully walk away with encouraging people. And, we can be talking about a strategy or whose lane needs pushed or whatever. But then a few minutes later, it could be like, oh man, how's your mom? Thanks for praying for that thing. This is what happened. Or, whatever. There's a lot of like real conversations that happen too. I know a lot of people have that, but I feel like we're really open to that.
That's cool.
So I think that there's a couple different points to come from. Number one, I can't turn like who I am off. I'm just me all the time. And
that's true.
Whether it's for good or for bad.
Amber, I'm so sorry.
I love it.
So there's the aspect that if it's like just me and Amber, or just us and the kids, because we play with games with our kids too.
Love that.
If it's just us hanging out, then it's just us hanging out, just like we would in any other way. But it's also just like us hanging out any other way, even when we're in a call with our other friends. So like
Yeah.
Amber and I and like a whole bunch of work friends that I used to have from Japan is like one of the people we hang out with a lot. Um, and like I don't turn off who I am. So like if I have something going on in my life and Jesus needs to be mentioned, Jesus will be mentioned because
Yeah.
he's important. And so Jesus, because he's part of who I am at a very fundamental level, he goes with me wherever I am. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm in the online gaming space, Jesus is there with me.
Yeah. And one thing I appreciate about you guys, and I get to come in and I crash your guys' party all the time when you're playing games with your buddies, because we kind of play different games these days, but I'll come in and I'll talk, and Russ and I might talk ministry, you know, we might talk life, but like,
I love
you guys
that you do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? Okay. I good.
Yeah.
I hope so. Cause I really like your friend group, and I never want to be that like preachy guy, but I do feel like there's almost like a certain angle I can approach it at. That's not like, hey, I'm Rusty's like Jesus friend. And I think they know that. And I can maybe say things that, yeah, cause it is genuine. It's like who I am, but I feel like you also have this way of like talking about Jesus, but in a way that still respects that your buddies may not be followers of Christ, but like I can tell they really do care that that's something you care about, even if they don't care about it at all. And I think that just goes to like really respecting that, like, I don't know, your friends are who they are, and you are who you are. And I love that. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I have any, that's so different than my life. Cause I'm in a situation where my wife is not a gamer, and that's really good for me. She asks me sometimes like, would you like it if like at night we argued about which game to play instead of which movie to watch? And I'm like, babe, as unhealthy a relationship as I already have with video games, if you were a gamer, like that would be the worst thing in the world for me. So God knew that you could handle having a wife that played video games, and he knew that I could not. So we get some great sessions of Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Disney Dreamlight. We get some good sessions of that every now and then. Some Gang Beasts. We get some laps in Gang Beasts, but man, if my wife played League of Legends with me, oh my gosh, that'd be the worst thing in the world for me. So I love you guys so much. I'm so glad that we got to spend some time together this week. I'm so glad that we got to just be with Jess, be with you guys, work on SG stuff. So is there any last words as we come to a close here?
The most important thing out of all this is just to put Jesus at the center. And he's going to go with you, whatever mission field you're at, whether it's, whatever it is, or video games. If Jesus is there with you, that's all you need.
Yeah. Amen. I love that. Amber, Russ, I love you guys so much. It's fun just having a conversation with you guys, and it's cool that maybe a few people will be a fly on the wall for this one. So you guys have an awesome night of gaming, and be a light for Jesus while you do so.
Yeah. We love everybody.
Right. Love you guys. One more thing. Satellite Stories will be streaming on the Glue network. That's GLU. Glue is a streaming platform available on Roku and smart TVs, as well as their Android and iPhone apps. Glue exists to unlock the inspirational value of faith-centric programming, partnering with Christian content creators like Love Thy Nerd and Satellite Stories. If you download the Glue Network app today and search for Love Thy Nerd, you'll find us right there. Thanks for joining us as we grow the library of Satellite Stories. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, Jesus loves you, nerds. Hey friends, Jamie here. Welcome to Satellite Stories, where we interview those who have encountered Jesus through video games and nerd culture. We're a part of the LTN Podcast Network, and today we're going to hear another story.
My beautiful, beautiful bride. Look at that smile. Oh man,
here we are.
We get to just talk for like 3 hours or something. We'll see how it goes. No, I know you're not. What's that?
I said that never happens.
That never happens. Hey, you know what? Well, as long as
not right now.
Kids
as long as our kids are not here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Uninterrupted.
Babe, this is exciting. This is cool. You know, we've been, at least with our friends here locally, talked about the idea of a podcast for a long time, of us doing a podcast together, and we didn't want to do it just to do it. And then we found out, let's do satellite stories. And then also, hey, Jess, you kind of have a satellite story of your own.
I've also never been on a podcast, so this is a first.
Never been on a podcast. Wow.
No, I'm not that interesting.
Okay, but if that is okay, first of all, that's
I don't have that many cool things to talk about.
That is not true. And your ratio of number of podcasts you've listened to number of podcasts you've been on.
Right. I didn't say I've never listened to a podcast. I said I've never been on a podcast.
So give us an idea. How often do you listen to podcasts?
Well, now that I have young kids at home, not as often as I used to, but I used to like every day on my way to work, on my way home. That's what I do in the car. So. Yeah.
When you do dishes, when you kind of always just have like an earbud in and
kids go to bed, I'd listen to a podcast. Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. Well,
so now it's maybe more like once a week, but
yeah. Yeah, I think you listen to like a lot of clips on like TikTok and on Instagram and stuff. I hear you like
and I've just
like a clip from a podcast.
The amount of time I have to listen to a podcast is so much shorter, so I have to be very picky. So there's like one podcast I love to listen to. So
it's called Satellite Stories.
For that one.
No. Oh wait, what podcast is it?
Jackie Hill Perry and her husband.
Yeah, that's so good. What's it called?
It's called With the Perrys. So.
Cool. With the Perrys. Great. Nice little plug. Yeah, that's your go-to podcast.
Look it up. It's good.
Will do. My wife listens to it. So here we are. This podcast, Satellite Stories, is all about finding stories where video games, Jesus, and an individual intersect. And because you're my wife, I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be on the podcast. It's like, well, do I actually have a satellite story? I'm like, duh. And this is where my heart immediately went, and where my mind went was, I think you being the wife of somebody who runs a video game ministry, the wife of a youth pastor who has kids playing playing video games in his house all the time, like just kind of by proxy. Was like, of course you have a satellite story, but we didn't really want to make it about other people's stories. So my observation from the beginning was your heart of availability and hospitality for these young gamers. It was the intersecting point for a lot of people's satellite stories, like where individuals that are in our ministry today, like years ago when we first met them, or even newer students recently, their satellite stories where they experienced Jesus, video games, and their life-changing experience. You were like at the intersecting point. You were at that. You were part of their satellite stories.
Yeah, it's really cool. I feel like I've seen a lot of cool satellite stories, and a lot of the stories that I've heard so far on the podcast, it's like I got a front row seat at that. So yeah, I feel like I got to see a lot of the stories, but I'm like, those aren't my stories to share. You know, if I was sharing my perspective of them, sure, but I don't want to steal other people's stories because I know they may come on here someday. So
I love that. I love the heart behind that. So I guess that even got us talking like, okay, well, there's a lot of cool ways in which you have seen video games and the gospel impact someone's life. But it got us going, wow, what is your personal satellite story? And let's go ahead and take a little stroll down memory lane. Cute little Jessica Joy Adams at the time, hanging out as
my real name.
That's right. These people got to know.
No gamer tags here.
No Mrs. Ziefels, for those in Discord. But tell us about just little Jess Joy. What was it like? What was your childhood like? And specifically in terms of video game, were video games a part of your family? It wasn't like mine, certainly, where we played Diablo 2 at the age of 7. But what was it like for you?
Yeah. We had a GameCube growing up. So I have a younger sister. It's 2 years younger. I don't know if that was why we didn't play video games. I didn't have brothers. Not to say only guys play, but yeah, my sister and I, it just wasn't like a huge part of our lives growing up. My parents are not gamers. However, we got a GameCube. We had gone to like a resale video game store and got a GameCube, and would go to garage sales and get new games. And
That's
I also
so
had a
your
Game
dad.
Boy.
That is so your dad.
I know. I know. I had a Game Boy, the lime green little, like, man, that thing was cool. And then I had upgraded to like,
you knew.
I upgraded to the Nintendo DS, the one that like opened up, like the flip one.
Yep.
I had a navy one. And so my sister and I would play on the GameCube. Sometimes we'd play like a lot of Disney games. I remember like there was a Haunted Mansion game. I remember like Beauty and the Beast. And then we discovered Pikmin.
It's getting a little hot in here. Just gaming. No,
we discovered Pikmin. I think we got that at one of the like video game resale stores, and I just thought it was adorable. Like just picking them, and they had little flowers on their heads, and they'd follow you around. And
you played some of that with me, right? Like
yeah. I've played it now too. And then but it wasn't like a huge part of our lives. But like road trips, we'd always bring our little Game Boys, and one of my best friends, Crystal, also had a Game Boy. So we would trade games. We'd trade all the Disney games, and we'd get stuck on the same levels. And, Beauty and the Beast, like Gaston, he was really hard. Couldn't ever beat him. Lion King,
Gaston.
Aladdin. I remember we had like a Finding Nemo. I don't know. We just played a lot of like Disney games, I think, because like we love Disney. So like, there's a game about this. Yeah. So dabbled in games a little bit. And then I remember when I was in high school, I hadn't like touched my Game Boy or all those games in a long time. Had them in a bag in my room, and I gave them to a boyfriend at the time. And then he became an ex-boyfriend. And never again have I seen those games or that Game Boy.
Oh my goodness.
It's a tragedy. Guy. I know.
That guy. Do I know that guy?
You do know that guy. We're not dropping names. That was a long time ago. I'm sure he got
was it Gaston?
Yeah. So it wasn't a huge part of my life, but as a kid, it was fun to dabble in video games.
Now, Jesus was a part of your life, big young life, upbringing, born in South Africa while your parents were missionaries. A lot of cool stories there. But did you ever foresee like video games somehow being a part of your spiritual journey with Christ? Were they ever connected at all, or was it like completely detached?
Yeah. I mean, if we want to get into, a little bit about what I had pictured my future would be, was I always pictured I'd marry someone in ministry. Like, I always thought I would marry someone that worked with youth. And so here we are. But video games, no. I think I just kind of assumed like maybe I'd marry someone that did Young Life just because that was what I grew up in. But yeah, never video games. But the Lord works in mysterious ways, and here we are.
Amazing ways.
Better than I could have ever imagined.
Okay. So let's go now to continue in your satellite journey, your satellite story. You have this Game Boy, you give it to this ex-boyfriend, whatever, buy video games. Suddenly you meet me, and I am a gamer. What are some things you remember about like understanding like, okay, this guy's serious about video games? Like what are some, I have a couple that I think of, but I'm curious what you go to.
Well, I think when we first met, so we dated long distance for people that don't know. So there were some things about you that I didn't maybe realize to their full capacity until we, lived in the same town and got married. Like, so all that to say, like, I don't think I realized how much of a gamer you were when we first met. But because we were long distance, it was a fun way to like connect and hang out. Was like, hey, let's hop on Minecraft together. So one of your friends that lives here in town, remember Justin Butler, came over and brought me an Xbox and got it all set up so you and I could play games, 400 miles away from each other, which that was kind of cool. It was like, wow, we could do something
like a
together.
glass house or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And you built my dog fun. Like floating in the air or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, he likes gaming. Like this is a way we can hang out. But I don't think I realized how much of a gamer you were until we
tried League of Legends one time.
I did try League. That was traumatizing and I will never try it again. No, I was just like, wow, this is like not casual. These people are not nice. Why would anybody want to be around any of these people? Like, I feel awful about myself. I'm not playing that game again. So that was the first and last time I ever played League. So. Okay.
My memory. No, yeah, you dab a little bit, but one of my first memories of us gaming, of course, League of Legends and Minecraft, but I remember when you moved to Idaho, I was debating on whether or not I was going to get an Xbox One. And I remember one time you wheeled up and you said you had something in the back of your car, and I opened it up and there was an Xbox One in your car. And I was like, what? And that was around when Project Spark had come out. And if you don't know what Project Spark is, guys, just go look it up. It was basically a game development platform on Xbox and PC that was amazing. And I spent a lot of time on Project Spark. And you worked day shift and I worked night shift. So I would sit at your house at night. You would be sleeping and I would be at your house. People were like, why is Jamie at his girlfriend's house? Like, hey, we behaved ourselves. We waited till marriage. I'm telling you right now, we did. We did. We're good Christian kids. I wasn't at her house because I wanted, to do anything other than play Project Spark.
You weren't even there.
Oh, sorry. Well, so what would happen is at night I would work, but then I would come to your house on nights where I wasn't working. My sleep schedule was, that's true. My sleep schedule was such that like during the night I was awake and you would be sleeping. So on nights where I didn't work, I would just be at your house playing that game. And then I'd like fall asleep on your couch when you were at work. It's like Jamie doesn't ever leave that place.
Yeah, you'd be there all day.
Yeah. So I remember that. And I remember thinking, wow, she like doesn't really understand the gaming world, but wants to support me in that. And that's also around the same time that we did like some board games and video game stuff for the church that we were part of, Abundant Life, the church I grew up in. My dad's a pastor there. Go Abundant Life. I'm at Idaho, and we had like our first group of youth kids, and boy, that's crazy to think about because we have all these youth kids here now that are like adults. They're in our homes, they hang out,
but all those kids from Idaho are like married with kids now. Man, they're like old.
We don't see them anymore because they live in Idaho. But yeah, those are like the memories I think of. So now I mean, we're not talking. This isn't Idaho stories. So let's fast forward now from Idaho to Oregon. People that have listened to the previous episodes, they've heard my story. They've heard Satellite Gaming's origin story. What is going on in your head as someone who we've kind of gotten in trouble for this? Tell me a little about this. Someone who we go like, well, Jess isn't really a gamer. What is it like for her to be a part of Satellite Gaming? We've kind of pushed the brakes on saying Jess isn't a gamer. And I want to hear a little bit about that. Like, what was it like for you realizing you might be a gamer? And what was it realizing when God called us as a family to ministry? It was video game ministry. Like, if I were you, I'd be like really second guessing what's happening in my life right now. But let's hear that from your heart, because I think that is your satellite story. That just maybe you think differently, but I think this is where it really begins.
About the comments about not being a gamer.
Just maybe all of that. The whole season of like, wow, I'm married to a guy running a gaming ministry, but by call and mission in our family, like you're also running a gaming ministry, right? Like as a
I think we have to. So, I think we have to back up a little bit because we talked about you and I dating and playing games together, and then when we got married, I think that was when I realized like, oh, this guy like really likes video games. Like he plays a lot of video games.
No kids.
No kids. Yeah. Had a lot of that freedom. And you and I actually started.
You can call me out here if you need to. It's okay. You don't need to be soft.
I don't need to.
Okay.
You and I actually started streaming video games together.
Yes.
And on Twitch, and we didn't have kids. We'd work, and at night, that was kind of a way that we would hang out. And I think for me, it was a way that I could tap into your world a little bit because at the time I would say I really was not a gamer. I think now to say that is a little bit untruthful, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. Cool. But at the time it was like, I'm really not a gamer, but like I see how important this is to my husband, and I see how much he loves these games. And also you would always say like you loved playing games with me and like watching me play games. And so I think for me, it was just a way that I felt like God had called me to love you and like love our marriage and like prioritize us, was like, I'm gonna play games with Jamie. And so we played a lot of different games. I mean, we bounced around a lot. I don't know that we ever really finished a game because I would probably get bored with it before that happened. But I had a lot of friends that would be like, oh, you're like playing video games, you're like streaming, so like you're a gamer. And I didn't know you like to play video games. My response was always like, well, I really don't love playing video games, but it's a way that I can really love my husband. And so I think that like for me it was, and not to like boast on myself, but like it was just a very selfless thing and like a sacrificial thing. There were times where I was like, I really don't want to go stream video games. Like it's hard for me to sit still and do that. But I think God really laid it on my heart that like, this is a way that I can love my husband and like really like, again, like just tap into something he loves and that world. And then, we streamed for like on and off for a few years. And I think through that, I found that there were parts of gaming and like the gaming community that I loved. Like I love the people. When we would stream video games, I remember like we'd be like talking to people on Twitch and I'd like stop playing the game and I'd just be talking and Jamie'd like hit me and be like, you gotta play the game. Like,
play the game.
You can't just sit here and talk to people. Or he'd like, nudge me and I'm like, oh, sorry. Like
there were times where I go to take the controller.
Sitting there. Yeah.
I go to take the controller. You'd be like, no, I'm playing. And I'm like, I'm thinking,
but you're
no,
not.
You are not.
And so I think it was like, I realized that like, the video games really can be a tool because we made a lot of really cool friendships in streaming and playing video games. It was fun. But again, to me, like, I don't know that I like loved the game. I wasn't like, oh, I got to get on tonight to play that game. It was like, I want to get on and hang out with my friends.
And you're getting exposed right now. Okay. You like horror movies. I think you're a pretty big fan of like the horror genre. So playing horror video games, like I think that really,
that is like another level. Like I could only handle so much of that.
But it was so fun.
Until
Dawn though. Until Dawn, like I feel like that was a good balance.
I feel like that was probably the only game we did finish.
A lot of people died that probably didn't have to, but it was fun. That was great.
I can't remember which buttons are which, and when you put me on, when I have to hit those buttons on a certain time, I can't. It just doesn't happen, and people die. So sorry.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, and then I think, like not only like finding that like I liked the community and the people, it was like, okay, I found some games I really did like, I like the cozy games, and Jamie got me a Switch years later, a Switch Lite, and I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. Like, I get down on some Disney Dreamlight Valley. I love that game. It's relaxing. And
you played a bit of that when you were pregnant, right?
Played a lot. When I realized you could check the like hours that you've played, I was like, oh my gosh. And I think that's when David and I it was probably close to like 200 hours, which for me is a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe for other people, it's like, that's like a weekend. No shade, but that's a lot for me. Yeah. But I think that was when the conversation with David and I started, where he was like, Jess, you have to stop saying you are not a gamer. And he was like, we also have to stop saying that, because like you are a gamer, like you are in this world. You love this community. And so you got to stop saying you're not a gamer. So that's where I feel like it is kind of unfair, even though I don't like, yes, I don't play a lot of video games week to week, day to day. It probably is pretty unfair for me to say I'm not a gamer because, like, I know how to use Discord. I can, like, hang with most of the conversations about games. I know what new games have come out. I could probably understand the type of game, so I think David probably is right in that I need to stop saying, and we need to stop saying, Jess is not a gamer. Jess doesn't have a lot of time to play games right now, but I probably am a little bit of a gamer.
Yeah. We charged up your Switch the other day so you could play Dreamlight Valley. But then by the time it got charged, I don't think you even got to play, did you?
I know. I was tired. It was like 10 o'clock and, little kids,
Yeah. Well, it's like
tired.
this. Oh, man, the kids thing is like, it used to be that, like, okay, if I go to sleep at 10 and I got to wake up at 6, that's 8 hours of sleep. Now, if I go to sleep at 10, I'm rolling the dice that if my kids sleep all night, then I get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But it could also mean I get 3 hours of sleep.
That's not often that happens.
It's not often.
So.
Yeah. It's not often.
Yeah.
No. Well, now let me, so we're hearing a lot about your personal story, and that's what we want, right? That's why we have Satellite Stories here. But I think a beautiful part of everyone's story is how it intersects with other people's stories. So maybe talk about as we, and I love that you backed us up a little bit, because as we transitioned from just live streaming to then really going, holy cow, video games is something the Lord has called us to use as a tool for ministry. Because we had our house full of, like, I think at the most we had was 45 people in our house for youth group. It was very common for there to be 30 plus kids there. Like, that was like a common thing. And we would do youth group once a week in our house. We would do a student leadership meeting once a week in our house. We would do other meetings with different rhythms and stuff. What I guess what started happening when you started seeing, like, that playing video games with these kids was resulting in them having satellite stories of their own, that, like, holy cow, Jesus is meeting them where they are because of video games. You can either speak to, like, a specific student or a story. Obviously, we want to have them on here to share their stories sometime, but, like, just maybe talk about, like, where you realize, like, wow, God, you're using me through video game culture to impact people for the gospel. What was happening in your mind when you started seeing that?
Yeah. I think, like, the first time I started really seeing it was when we had an after school club at the high school that I worked at. And we weren't really, like, sure what to expect. Like, that school hadn't had a video game club before. And it was kind of like, well, we'll try, and I was new at the school. But we started it, and just, like, all these kids just came. And it was just so cool to, like, see them rally, like 50 kids in the commons, just, like, rallying, and then seeing, like, there's kids playing, but then there's kids behind them, like, cheering them on. And it was just like,
teachers,
wow,
principals.
and then teachers. And it was just, I think for me, it was like, wow, it's really cool that I get to be a part of this, not necessarily, like, sitting and playing games with kids, but, like, I got to be a part of, like, coordinating this and, like, making a space for these kids to just, like, have fun and just, like, the hype, like. So it was just really cool to just have a part in it, even though I am or am not a gamer. I'm not playing the game with them, but, like, hey, like, my role in making this happen is really important. And I think, like, about, like, the way we use our house too for a lot of these kids. I don't often play games when they're at our house. Sometimes we'll play Mario Kart or Smash Bros or something. Yeah, Ninja Turtles, or maybe a board game. But, like, I get to, like, create a space where these kids can come over to our house and make them food, or have them be comfortable, let them sleep on my couch, which then, sometimes turns into, like, well, you're here, so you're going to help me lift this really heavy hay bale that's been sitting on my front porch for a long time. That's like 700 pounds. And then you're going to help me put my Christmas lights up. And, oh, could you help me move furniture? Like,
can you teach me how to make real tacos?
Yeah. Real tacos, not my white girl tacos. But yeah, I just think it's really cool that, like, I get to be a part of this community in the ways that God has gifted me. And I don't have to, like, know how to play a video game really well to do that. Like, I get to be a part of their lives in other ways and kind of support other aspects of their lives while they're playing video games at my house.
I want to go back to something I said from the beginning, and this is what I think is from an outsider watching you, right? Watching your journey with Jesus. I think a big part of your story has been your heart of availability and hospitality for anybody, wherever they are and however they need it, you know? Like when I went to South Africa for leadership training for 3 months, you know, our home was really, that's where we came up with the one of our family values, that heaven at home through hospitality. You know, we want this house to be a place of healing for people spiritually. And I mean, there was a season where we got to do that with a student who lived with us for 9 months during his senior year, right? Like, I mean, we've done that in big ways like that, and in big ways of the amount of people. And sometimes it's as simple as one kid that just needs a place to hang out on a random evening, so he makes tacos with us, or he cooks another one cooks a steak, you know, or helps move a hay bale when I'm out of town, that I probably couldn't move anyway because he's jacked. So, so let me ask for others that may not be about video games. They may actually not be a gamer at all. You know, you've kind of said like, look, I can't really say I'm not anymore. But for others that maybe wouldn't find themselves as gamers, but they have that heart and that desire to be hospitable, to be available, to love their neighbors. Like what would you say, and how would you encourage them in, man, this is what can happen if you don't have to pick up a controller, but if you make yourself available to young gamers or to people that are in nerd culture, what would be your encouragement to those that wouldn't naturally find themselves in that space?
I think, I think God calls us to love one another and love our neighbor as ourselves. And so, I think it's just all about just sacrificial love, and just how can you love the people that God's put in your life and the people that God has entrusted you with. How can you love them well? And sometimes that's really sacrificial and selfless. And so it's stepping into their world. And I think a lot of people will be surprised at how like accepting people are, especially like this next generation. Like, I don't think the guys ever for once were like, wow, Jess doesn't play video games. Like, forget that. You know, I think they like embrace the fact that like, I don't know everything about their games and I don't play the games with them. But yeah, so I don't know. I think just to me, it's like, you know, if we say that we are followers of Jesus and that we want to be obedient to the things he's called us to, love people, and you know, at whoever that is in your life and in my life, because of you and our ministry, like it's gamers and it's that community of kids, and they're like a really, really special group of kids, and I love them, and I don't take it lightly that God's like entrusted a lot of them to us. And yeah, I just hope that you know, that when they look at me and you and the love we have for them, that they see Jesus, and that they see that like the reason we do this is because God selflessly and unconditionally loves us where we are, despite us, you and I, like our shortcomings and our failures. Like God loves us, and God cares about the things we care about. And so we're just trying to, you know, be a vessel and, you know, love these kids that way. So I don't know. I just think that it's something, you know, I think we say we love people, but like, what does that really look like?
What does that mean? It look like,
yeah. If we just say it, you know, you gotta act
actually
on
do it. You gotta act on it. So I'm going to take that as we kind of wrap things up here. I want to take that one step further and say, I just, as a brother in Christ, I just want to affirm you and celebrate you, because I've gotten front row seats to see you step into a world that is totally alien to you, that is totally foreign to you. Make yourself available to these young men to a degree that, like, for many of them, you're their only example of what a like biblical mother looks like. You know, it's what a Christ-centered mother looks like, a Christ-centered wife looks like, a Christ-centered like woman of God. For many of them, you're the only example they have of that. I think that's really special, and I'm just really proud of you. How does that make you feel? That it's not just like, it's not just this casual like, yeah, I love my neighbors. It's like, just like these kids would die for you. Like they really love you. You're like their second mom. For many of them, you're the only motherly figure they have, you know? How does that make you feel?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I feel undeserving. I feel like, I feel very honored. I feel, I don't take it lightly, you know. I think it's a huge, like I said, honor that God's entrusted this ministry and these kids with us. And I said this to one of the kids in our house the other day. It's like anything good you see in me or Jamie, like it's Jesus, it's God.
Amen.
It's not,
Amen.
it's not me. It's God. I'm a weak, broken human, but God, gives me strength and gives me love, and I want to pour that onto these kids, and I want them to have the hope of Jesus that I have, and yeah, so it's a big honor, and I love being a part of this community, and even if I feel like an alien in it sometimes, like it's really fun, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
I appreciate that, babe. I'm glad you made time for this today. I'm glad you make time for these students every week, and I'm glad you make time for me every day, even when it's hard for us to fit it in with all the craziness of life. So I have one more question about these guys. Which one of them is your favorite? I'm kidding. They already know.
No. You ask me that question a lot, and you talk about that a lot.
It's funny. It's just fun. We love them all.
I love them all in different ways, different reasons.
Yeah. So final, just one line of encouragement. Let's see what you got. Pull it out. One line of encouragement.
One line of encouragement
for those who we already said it a bit, but for those who just don't get gaming, but they want to know, does this work? Does this work?
Yeah.
This gaming ministry, video game ministry. That's what this podcast is for. It's a library of stories that demonstrate to others this works, and it's working.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah.
Does it work?
I mean, yes, it works. Of course it works. I see it in kids' lives all the time. And I think my one-liner of encouragement is just like, love the people in your life well, love them selflessly. I think if Jesus walked the earth today, there'd probably be a lot of things that he doesn't understand that each one of us enjoy or like doing, but I think he would love us no matter what. And yeah, so I don't know, just love people and love them well, even if that means doing something that is a little bit of a sacrifice.
Playing Disney Dreamlight Valley for 200 hours. I'll take one for the team.
Playing League.
That was sacrifice. Yeah, you were pregnant when you did that too, so there wasn't many options. Well, all right. Well, I love you. I love that you took the opportunity to be on here with me. And what's for lunch?
I don't know, but I hear our baby crying. So thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
I love you so much, babe. I'll make us lunch.
One more thing. Satellite Stories will be streaming on the Glue network. That's GLU. Glue is a streaming platform available on Roku and smart TVs, as well as their Android and iPhone apps. Glue exists to unlock the inspirational value of faith-centric programming, partnering with Christian content creators like Love Thy Nerd and Satellite Stories. If you download the Glue Network app today and search for Love Thy Nerd, you'll find us right there. Thanks for joining us as we grow the library of Satellite Stories. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, Jesus loves you, nerds. Jamie here. Welcome to Satellite Stories, where we interview those who have encountered Jesus through video games and nerd culture. We are part of the LTN Podcast Network, and today we're going to hear another story.
Hey friends, welcome. I'm excited to hang out for another episode of Satellite Stories. Today we have Amély. How are you, Amély?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. It's really good to be hanging out with you, talking with you. Hey, if you are just listening and you're not watching the video, I'm telling you, you are missing out on one of the coolest backgrounds that I've seen. It's the plants. Like, are you just like a plant person? You just love plants?
My husband is, yeah.
Your husband is? That's super cool.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite plant? Is that a thing? To have a favorite plant?
My monstera next to my door is so big. I love her so much.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, you love her so much. Okay, so we personify this. Like, you know, it's like our pets. Yeah. That's so cool. That's good. Well, Amély, we've known each other now for, has it been like a month, maybe longer? I don't know.
A little bit over a month, I think.
Okay, a little bit over a month. But we have a church about 45 minutes from us, suburban. We love you guys so much. And our mutual friend Kim, who I love her, she's amazing. And man, I tell you, got a call from her one day, and she just said, Jamie, there is somebody at our church. Like, this is an answer to prayer. You have to meet this person. And she said, oh, her name is Amély. Told me this really cool story. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy that she just like showed up at church. We've been talking about doing more satellite gaming ministry in your community. Like, it almost seems too good to be true. And then you listen to some of the episodes of the podcast. You have this big, you know, like, whoa, holy cow, satellite gaming is cool. And now we've been kind of hanging out. You're volunteering now, spending time with some students. What's it been like to be a part of the satellite gaming community? And it's kind of like a very new thing for you to have like video games and ministry combined, right? What's that been like so far?
It's the best of both worlds. I thought I would be overwhelmed at first, but it was easy to get into. You guys are so welcoming. The kids are just so funny and so unique.
They are unique, that's for sure.
Yeah, just a great time overall. It's been easy.
That's really cool. Well, in a little bit, we're going to hear about your personal story, but let's start with this. Like, where are you from exactly?
I'm from Montreal in Canada.
Okay. And so your first language is not English, right?
No, it's French.
Okay, cool.
French Canadian.
French Canadian. And there's a difference,
Yeah.
right? It's like when people say Brazilian Portuguese, that's different than like
Yeah.
Portugal, right? Same thing?
Yep.
Okay. What's like one of the major differences between like French Canadian and French France? Whatever.
We use a lot of English words.
Oh, okay. It was like mixed in there. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Cool. Yeah, I would say that like I actually didn't know at first. Your English is pretty good. I will say like I didn't know that English was not your first language. I just thought you had like a really strong accent. But no, it's really cool. That's really cool. So like have you done student ministry before working with satellite gaming? Like you've worked with like kids and stuff, right? Or no, it's like your first youth experience.
Yeah,
you think?
Okay. My mother-in-law was a youth pastor. Well, not a youth pastor, a director of children ministry.
Okay.
For Albany City Church, and so she needed help. She always enrolled her kids into like, Easter market or stuff like that. She needs extra people. So she signed me up, didn't ask for it, just signed me up. And
Just said, "Oh, you're a volunteer." Yeah.
yeah, you're in the family now. You volunteer.
Okay.
So I've been volunteering, and then they do also a co-op for homeschooling on Tuesdays.
Oh,
So it's
fun.
a full day of parents or other people that want to volunteer to teach anything to the students. And so I've been a helper for this. I also taught French to the kids, and I tried to be a youth pastor. It didn't stick with how it was working out. I was missing video games, so I didn't really.
That's right.
It didn't really
Yeah.
stick with me, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So my follow-up question for that is, so French is your primary language. You work with youth. Do you ever get youth to like ask you to teach them cool French words? Like, teach me something in French. Is that like a common thing they ask you or no?
They most often just say the words that they already know in French,
Oh, okay.
like
Like
the classic
bonjour, whatever.
baguette, oui
Okay.
oui, and then the ho ho ho. The
Like whatever
classics.
they see in cartoons, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, I feel like our students at SG, I don't think most of them know that you speak French, but I promise you, like I picture Galaxy, like the moment he figures out you speak French, he's gonna be like, teach me how to say this in French. Like I know once he figures that out, he's gonna go crazy. That's so fun. Well, I'll share this. This is me kind of sharing a story before you share your story, because I'm really excited for you to share. This podcast is all about building this library of stories where people get to see firsthand, like, hey, gaming ministry is a thing. Like gaming can be something that builds our faith, something that points us more to Jesus. It can be a tool for that. The Holy Spirit, of course, builds our faith, but I feel like if we can use music to do that, we can use video games, we can use sports to do that. We can use video games. And so I'm excited to hear your story, but a little story I share first is satellite gaming. We have, some things that we value. One of those things would be that students feel safe online. You can't guarantee that a Discord will be safe because unfortunately people come in and pretend to be somebody they're not. And we have enough layers that I think we figure that out pretty quickly, but you can't just promise the internet's going to be a safe place. It just is not. But we put up a lot of barriers to keep them safe. So we value online safety. We value using video games for ministry. But something that we said we aspire to value is that we can serve our female students just as well as we serve our male students. And in order to do that, we really need girls that they relate to, girls that are like, yes, I'm a gamer. Yes, I like House Flipper. Yes, I like to draw nerdy things. I also like to play shooters every now and then. And that is like a hole that's been, I would say, not completely missing. We have certain people like on our team, like my wife now, Jess, she's like, okay, I can't say I'm not a gamer anymore, but she isn't like, she hasn't lived it for very long, and she's not, I would still say, compared to like a lot of us, she's not a gamer. But she plays games with kids and she really enjoys that. But a lot of the work she does with SG is like administrative work. And we've really been needing somebody who like lives and breathes and speaks their language that is a girl. So when Kim told me about you, that's why I was like, no, it's too good to be true. And the first time you came to the Rift, I was like, oh yeah, she gets it. She gets it. And so yesterday, just real quick, tell us this little story. You were playing, you were in a small group with Mango. So you guys talked about the message a little bit, but it was just you and her. So there was enough time after that to get into like some House Flipper or something, right? Tell us what you guys were doing and explain it maybe in a way that people don't know video games, like that would help them understand, like, what is House Flipper? What does it mean for her to show you what she was showing? But tell us a little bit about that.
So you asked us about what kind of video games that we were playing with an end game, and then I saw that you mentioned Honkai Star Rail, which is a game that I played. And then I was like, oh, what kind of game do you play? I see you play Honkai Star Rail. And then she was like, yeah, I'm more into House Flipper now. My dad has an account, so we share it. And I was like, I never played House Flipper. I saw one clip one time, looked nice. I love those kind of games. I used to build in The Sims. I just build in The Sims. Never play. Just build.
Never play. Just build stuff. Yeah.
Nope. Bought all the expansions just to build.
I love it.
She was like, well, do you want to see? I just built a house. I'm like, okay, show me. Then she showed me and she explained how she starts with nothing at all. And then by house flipping other houses, she gets a little money. Then she unlocks, new decor, new stuff. And she showed me also in the bedroom, she put a gaming console because her dad would disown her if she didn't.
He would. I know he would. That's so funny. Oh, that's cool. So what I love about that is there are like young guys in our ministry who really care about Fortnite. And I understand Fortnite enough to be like, oh, that's cool. I understand. I play League of Legends. I used to, so I understand when somebody has like a really cool play in League of Legends, I can see that. But like, I think it is different when a young girl gets to show like me her House Flipper, or gets to show like another girl with like, with like plants behind them and appreciates building and interior design. It's a whole different thing when she gets to show it to you versus like showing it to me, right? Like, hey, Zeefles, that's what I go by. Like, look at my House Flipper. And I'm like, hey, that's really cool. but I don't have much to say. Like, I can only relate so much. So I really appreciate what you bring to our Tuesday Night Rifts, which is basically a Bible study with some gaming. So thank you for that. And I'm really glad that Mango and I think some other girls will start showing up eventually now that they know there's a girl leader. And I'm excited to see what comes of it. So that's going to be pretty cool. So thank you. Yeah. Well, well, hey, let's get into this. Let's get into the story of the great and wonderful Amély. Let's assume, and I know a little bit of your story, but let's assume I know nothing. But here's what we're looking for. Who is Amély? What does video game life look like for Amély? How did that all start? And then where does Jesus come in, right? The whole point of this is where Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and a person intersect. And we really have, where video games, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and the person intersect, right? Where it's like, hey, video games are actually a part of my testimony. So share for us, Amély. Just start wherever you'd like in your story and give us the whole spiel. Go for it.
My dad used to keep all of his consoles. So I played on the Atari, I played on the Nintendo 64. I'm born in 96, so 64 was already out. But
Okay.
my favorite game was GoldenEye 007.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got a secondhand computer. I only played The Sims. I played extremely non-healthy ways of The Sims.
In unhealthy ways. Okay. I can relate. Okay.
I would have my room in the basement and I would hear my dad at like 2 a.m. making sure I was sleeping. Then I would just sit in my chair, just turn off my monitor and not move. And then he would say, "Are you sleeping?" Not turning the lights on, just, "Are you sleeping?" Not answering, not saying
Oh
anything.
my goodness.
Hear
Was
the
this like
door.
high school days?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's funny. Okay.
And then of course I would miss school. Don't do that, kids. Don't play
Don't do
video
that.
games until you don't go to school. No,
Yes, we said this was unhealthy. This is not the
It's-
example.
not good.
Yeah.
Got me
Hey, it's part
nowhere.
of the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, moved out at 16, 17, and then just started playing video games on Xbox 360, a hand-me-down again. And then my friends had a Xbox One. I played a little bit on there. Not my kind of, Halo. I liked it, but not that much. And then when I got my first computer, my own, started playing all the video games.
Okay.
All of them.
All
I
of it.
tried
All of it.
anything. Hearthstone, I liked it, but then it got too I
Like
had
pay to win?
think too much.
Oh,
No,
okay,
I
you
had to think too much. It's not my
Okay,
kind of game.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
too
yeah.
strategic.
Yeah.
And then, play Easy Stardew or
Ooh, Stardew's great. Yeah. And you say
Yeah.
easy Stardew, you mean like just like what do you mean by that? Like on the easy difficulty, or you're just saying that's an easy game?
that's an easy game. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cozy.
Yeah, like a cozy game. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
gonna stress me out like trying to play Valorant. I've been just starting to play Valorant and I got the shakes just thinking about it. It's so anxiety inducing to me.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Okay, so you're playing all of it at this point. Did you play League of Legends?
I really want to, but
Okay.
the people that I know that are playing are, first of all, they're saying that I'm not toxic enough to play it. And
It's
if I want
probably
to keep
true.
my sanity, I should not play.
I think these are wise people that you've surrounded yourself with. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's some good feedback. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And this is, so you said you moved out 16, 17. Is that common in Montreal or is that a little early for you?
No, my family lived in poverty, and also,
Okay.
my parents were chain smokers, cigarette smokers, and that cost me a lot of friendship, a lot of, just self-esteem. And as soon as I could move, as soon as I started to work, I moved out.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. Obviously, in different settings, different parts of stories are like intriguing and it is always interesting to hear of like the parts of hardship, right? Obviously what we're talking about here is the video games, but I'm sure like those insecurities or like that discomfort, that you grew up with around your family, did that like affect your online relationships with people? Did it affect your real life relationships? Kind of all of it?
Yeah. I had a pretty bad childhood and having access to, Tumblr. I made friends all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
meeting people online and gaming online was kind of the only way I could live, quote unquote,
Mm.
like
Okay.
escape, but also I know it's real. My mom, oh, your internet friends are not real,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Actually,
know.
I want to ask about that because I think that's one thing that people, I think, misunderstand a lot about video games. When someone says, "Oh, your online relationships aren't real relationships," I get a little defensive and protective of gamers because they are real relationships. They are genuine relationships. Now, I will agree that yes, we want to be in person. Of course, I want to hang out with my friends in person. Of
Hmm.
course, I want to like go to IHOP at 2 a.m. with my friends. Of course, like when I'm ready to move, I want somebody to show up at my house with a truck and help me move, right? Of course, I
Yeah.
want that. But just because I don't have access to that because they live 800 miles away does not mean that it's not a real relationship. Would you agree with that? And is that something you feel a lot from people that maybe don't play video games online?
Absolutely. I moved to Oregon 3 years ago. At first my friendships with my people in real life were strong, but then, after 3 years, I start to not have any news of them. Even if I ask them, are you busy? What are you doing? Just have a phone call or something. There's nothing, no feedbacks to. And then my friends that I made online, I text them. I could call up one of them right now and they would answer me, even if they're
Mm.
in the other time zone, never met them. Uh, they don't know my favorite color, probably. I don't know. We're not that
Yeah.
close, but they're there for me and they're close to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I really love that, and so I think I wanted to add that in there because I know that like meeting people online is a big part of your story, and I know you listened to Rusty and Amber's podcast episode. I know
Hmm.
that's that really resonated with you. So let's continue. I just thought that was worth mentioning. So you're living on your own. You're not with your parents, your family. You're playing all the video games. This is 16, 17 years old. What happens then?
Um, I wasn't a Christian at all. In
Okay.
Montreal, churches were with the school a year before I came to go to school, kindergarten, and then they pulled back. So, religion was not a thing at all.
Mm,
So, I was living my reckless
okay.
teenager, young adult life
Yeah.
until I decided to make a Discord for gamers that I could meet on Twitter.
Okay.
There's spaces on Twitter that you can talk. It's like a hosting
Yeah.
verbal event. Then I was talking with one of my friends, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I have a Discord channel just for gaming. Hit me up if you want to come." Then I got a
Yeah.
couple of people that wanted to come, and that's where I met one of my best friend, Christian, and my husband.
Oh, that's so cool. How did you like tell me about that experience with your husband, right? Cuz that sounds really special. Tell us some details. Not all the details, but tell us what like what was the first time you guys talked? What was the first time you played a game together? Anything you can
uh,
think of.
we played a lot of golf with friends.
Okay.
Uh, we played a lot of Fortnite. That was my first. I think he's younger than me, so he grew up around the first Fortnite, the first season, first chapter,
Okay.
first everything of Fortnite. So he's really, really good. And I was
Okay.
just like the one with the med packs, just carrying, not pulling my
Just a
weight at
mule? Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yup. And I don't know. I guess he kind of liked the fact that I was still playing games that I wasn't good at. And he
Hmm.
wanted to teach me. And then we spent more and more time together. And it was always on Discord calls or on Discord phone calls. Um, but at a certain time, we were 24/7 just in a call.
Okay. Like
So
falling
that was
asleep on the
true.
call, all of that. Just like
Yes.
you're my
Yes.
person. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Jess
There's
and
a
I dated long
thunderstorm.
distance for a couple of years, so I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that long, I think, because we started talking, I think, 4 months after I was working for uh, a company that sells item in a music festival, in music festivals in general. And then we left Montreal and we did a US tour. So I went
Oh, cool.
to California, Florida. Where else? I went to, I forget where it was. And then I went to Seattle. And Seattle is 7 hours away from Oregon
Yeah.
ish,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I live, and near Corvallis. That he was like, you know what? This is my chance. I'm just gonna drive up 7 hours, meet you with your bunch of strangers just while you're working.
Wow.
That was the first time we met, and then he went back home. We both cried separately
Oh.
because we missed each other so much. And
Yeah.
then his mom just flew me back for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then, started to think about proposal. I bought a ring online, and he bought one when we were down in Florence, in secret. I did not know. No one even told me.
It's supposed to be a surprise.
I know. Then we went
That's
back
funny.
in Canada for 3 months so I can get my stuff in order, keep
Okay.
working a little bit. And when the ring came in the mail, I just gave it to him like a few days before Christmas. I was like, Merry Christmas. I
That's
was
so
like,
cool.
what the heck is this? He opened it. He's like, are you serious? Ran to his luggage, gave me my ring. So he didn't know and I didn't know, and we both knew at the same time.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so fun. So at this point, you're still living in Montreal. You guys, how long have you been married now?
It's been 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And I know this because I think you told me or Kim told me your wedding party. So like all your bridesmaids and stuff. Like, how did you know all of them? Because I mean, you got married in Oregon. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who were these people?
So none of my in real life friends or family came. Family most
Okay.
because they can't travel or,
Mhm.
but my friends didn't come. So, my bestest friends, my closest friends online, they all
Online.
came.
They all came.
I
Your
had,
online friends. Like, was this the first time
yeah,
you met them in person?
most of them, yes. Most
Wow.
of them, yes.
That is so
Yeah.
cool. And I now as a gamer, I think of like, when I got married, I had my groomsmen, my wife had her bridesmaids, but these are people that I'm with. Like my best friend is actually Rusty, who's been on the podcast, and like he was in the wedding, and it was really cool to see him because since we've been adults, we haven't been able to be around each other as much as we'd like. But I can't imagine like how exciting it must have been because people are like, oh, but they're online people. I'm like, yeah, but can you imagine like having these online friends forever, and then like for your wedding, like you're getting married to your best friend, you get to spend the rest of your life with your best friend, and you get to meet all these people for the first time in your life, and they get to celebrate like the coolest moment of your life with you. I feel like that's got to
Yep.
be amazing. Like people think like that's weird. I'm like, no, you're missing out. I bet that is awesome. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, did you pick them up from the airport? When's the first time you saw them?
Most of them lived Washington
Oh, okay.
and that area, and then the other portion was Texas, Boston, Wisconsin.
All
So
over
they
the
all,
place.
yeah, they all met. I think Missouri as well. They all met at the airport in Portland, and they drove together. The people that were
Wow.
coming from the East Coast, and then the people that were up from us in Washington, they just met up at a certain point and then drove up.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's so cool. I bet that was really exciting. That was really
That
exciting.
was so fun. I booked them an Airbnb so they can all be together.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it was just so fun. Every night they stayed for like 5 days, I think, and every night I would go to the Airbnb and sleep there, even after my wedding.
Yeah.
Didn't see my husband. Huh? My husband went with
Wait,
his friends. I went with my friends.
Okay.
It's like
That's
it's
a little
once in
different,
a
but
lifetime. But like I don't get to
yeah.
see them that much in
Yeah.
real life.
And that was like a decision you and your husband made together. Like, this is how we're going to
Yeah.
do it because it's the first time they're here. Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool for you guys to make a decision like that. So now I think that the big question is, you got married. You told us a little bit about your mother-in-law. She was a youth director, pastor in some ways. At what point does Jesus come into all of this, and what was that like?
He came in. I'm pretty sure he's been chasing me all my life, but I
Okay.
didn't open my heart at all.
Okay.
Um, um,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because he's
it's
always there, but when do we decide to acknowledge that? That's good. I like
yes,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's more when my mother-in-law, who at the time was just the mom of the boy I was seeing,
Mm,
asked my husband, who was just the boy I was seeing, if I
yeah.
was a Christian. And I said I got baptized, but that's because I grew up Catholic-ish,
Okay.
until
Ish.
I had a
Yeah.
brain
It's like
and the school didn't, yeah.
until I had a brain.
So I
I
got
love you. That's funny. Yeah.
so I got baptized when I was like not even a year old.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I said I was baptized in some conversation, and so he took that and ran with it. He
Okay.
said, "Yeah, she's been baptized." So when I came up here after that, she said she's clearly not a Christian.
She's like, son, we need to talk about this. Yeah. Okay.
But before she got saved, she was a little party girl like me. So she didn't judge me. She just
Oh, that's cool.
accepted me, and and that really is what happened. It's just I got here, and then I got to be with this loving family that just loves Jesus and loved me.
Mm,
And they were like, we don't want to rush you. Let's take that walk together. And if you're interested, we could do Bible study. And if you're interested, we could baptize you. And if you're interested, you could be something in there later.
yeah. That is
It took
so
3
cool.
years of, me being very like curious about Christianity, because all I could see is in the movies how people
Yeah.
are crazy
Yeah.
Christians, and like
What I like
how
to say is
video
like,
games are so against it. Like,
yeah, I like to tell people like there are a lot of weird Christians, but those people were probably weird before they became Christians. So don't blame Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, that's a lot. I mean, was that like all happened like while you were getting married, after you got married, kind of this all blurred together kind of, it sounds, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did. It's all blurred together. That journey is, I was forced to do something with my days while I could not work, not travel. The only thing I had was video games and myself. And,
Mm,
then I started thinking about what if I go to therapy. Then I started to go to therapy, and then I was like, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm not on my antidepressants anymore. I can function in life. And then I started volunteering more and more and more, and then just
mm,
learning about God and his work is just, it's been really, really helping. And
that's cool.
there's not a day without having Jesus that just
Mm,
does something to me, like an incredible thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him for
yeah.
sure.
Right. I love that. I think that's
It's
so
like
good. And
inevitable.
yeah, it really is. I think when we're walking, like in my marriage, when I'm like purposeful about pursuing my wife and loving her, it's like every day we have a cool story, right? Like every day it's like, oh, hey, this morning was fun. We blah, blah, blah. Or hey, this afternoon was cool. Like, sometimes days are just chill. But when I'm really chasing after my wife and I love her so much, I've always got a new story to tell. And I think the same can be said with our walk with Jesus. If we are really walking in that way, we're walking in the ways of Jesus and we're abiding in him, like, man, not a day goes by where I'm like, just so amazed by his beauty, by his love that he has for us and his grace. So I really love that. I think there are two more things that I want to address. So one would just be a general question to let's talk about like specifically the girl gamer like stigma, like a
Hmm.
lot of people just assume like if I'm talking about a gamer, I'm talking about like the comic book guy from Simpsons, right? That's how David says it on our team, where it's like
Yeah.
everyone just assumes that it's like this like 30-year-old, like maybe 40-year-old like guy who loves comics, has zits all over his face and doesn't bathe. And it's like that's what people think of when they think of a gamer. But then you have
Hmm.
people like you and Mango and Mo and my wife. Like, no, there are plenty of women and girls that play video games too that also like interior design and plants and
Yeah.
doing their nails, you
Yeah.
know, and it's
Yeah.
totally okay. So yeah, she's like, look at my nails. But like, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what is it? I guess, what is it like being a girl gamer? And do you feel that like people treat you differently because you are a girl gamer? And I think with that, what would you say to like other maybe young gamers or parents of young gamers that are girls?
I got very lucky. I found that one Twitch streamer very kid friendly. She's a social worker, so she has her priority, like keeping everyone safe. So I got lucky. She was playing The Sims building.
Cool.
And so for a few years I was her moderator. And so, The Sims attract more girl gamers. And then
Yeah.
I really got like that sense of girlhood, womanhood
Mm,
there. But it's so hard. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would have been, more. I would have not been comfortable just going playing a game and just go in voice chat,
right.
because I see a lot of things on the internet whenever a girl just says like, "Good job, guys," and then people are just so mean to her because she's a girl. They're like, "Go
Yeah.
back to the kitchen."
Oh my
It's
gosh. I know
it's
like
so
we make
hard.
jokes about that, but it's real, right? That really
Yeah.
happens. Like when I tell people like, oh, and people would be like, it's a grill, like people
Yep.
just go nuts. Like, it's like, yeah, there's a girl playing Overwatch and she's not too bad at the game. Like,
Yep.
surprise. Like it's really obnoxious as a guy to see like other guys do that. It drives me nuts. So I'm glad that you had that community. So what would either two young girls like Mango, or to like maybe Mango's parents or grandparents, or to people that invest in young girls who play video games, or they're into nerd culture, art, things like that. What would you recommend for them? Like, I mean, obviously find a community, right? But like, what advice would you have for them?
You know, when maybe I don't know, because it's so hard. I haven't had it
Like for
never happened to me, that
yeah.
I got, because I'm always playing with either my husband, one of my friend, or, it never really happened to me.
So I
But
think
I
maybe the
think
advice is
just,
surround yourself with people that really do care about
yeah,
you, and find a good community to be with. I mean, maybe that's the
yeah,
advice that's hidden in there, right?
yeah. And,
Yeah.
if you hear a girl talking in voice chat and then other people are like, oh, girl, you just befriend her. So
Yeah.
now there's two girls and you guys
Yeah.
are playing together. I'm excited when I hear a girl. I'm not like, oh, that's a girl. I'm like, oh, a girl.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
Like I'm excited.
it,
Let's do this.
yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, another one.
Yeah. And do you think there are more girls playing video games than people think? I think girls just don't want to turn their mics on. Like I think there are a lot
Yep,
of girls playing. Yeah. And you said that
absolutely.
so confidently. I think people don't believe me because I'm a guy, but like as a girl, you're like, no, people just don't want to turn their mic on. It makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
they treat you so differently whenever you turn it on. Like I
Yeah.
could be so bad in a game and then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. And they're like, oh, it's okay. But 2 minutes prior, they were teabagging
Yeah.
me or,
They knew you were a
saying,
girl,
I'll
said like,
report
you suck.
you.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Oh
I
my
get so many
goodness.
friends invite. I'm like, this is not
It's,
what I wanted. I
yeah.
just wanted
Yeah.
to have a voice.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. I think that to me, like the friend request thing is rough because it's like, yeah, I want people to be my friend. Yeah. I want people to play games with, but it's clear that you just want to play video games with me because I'm a girl and you probably don't know any
Yeah.
girls.
Yep.
Yeah. Ah, that's crazy. Well, the last thing that I want to ask about, and actually I didn't tell you I was gonna ask you about this, so like we don't have to go too detailed. It's not a huge deal, but Multiply School. So I haven't talked much about Multiply School on the podcast, but Multiply School is a 21-day residential training. Historically speaking, it's been done for sports ministry around the world for a very long time. I think over 70 Multiply schools happened last year, with probably an average of like 20 students. So a lot of leaders have experienced Multiply School, but this this January in Oregon. Satellite Gaming is going to be through what's called a Go Game. It's a global gaming and esports movement. We're going to be facilitating and helping make the first video game multiply school happen. That's 21-day residential training. And that is something, again, I don't know, we didn't really talk about this, but like, you're ready for that, right? That is something you're going to be attending as a student. That's like official, right?
Absolutely, yes.
That's so cool. So 21 days living there. We do have a couple other girls. They are from Brazil. One of them is confirmed. The other one is waiting to get her visa approved. But what are you feeling about that? Like 21 days of getting like legitimate training on how to use video games as a tool for the gospel. Like, does that excite you? Does it scare you? Are you nervous? Like, what does that feel like?
I am so excited because I haven't had much experience in finding other Christians online.
Okay.
Not gonna lie, it's not like a first topic, no one's gonna type, I'm a Jesus lover, wanna play with me? So it's so hard. So I'm so excited to learn how to make that more obvious to the people around me, also the people that are going to be attending. That we are a good bunch of people that love Jesus and love games, and the two of them go together. And to show it afterwards to parents that are in disbelief, or kids that are afraid to make the Lord cry because they play Diablo,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I really appreciate that, Amély. And if it's okay, what I'd like to do is actually, I want to pray for you on the podcast, just because I think Multiply School is a very big commitment, and I think it's something that can really, I think I went to a similar school called ISLS in South Africa, and it in a lot of ways, like, I came back to the same life. I came back to the same family. I came back, to the same work, but it transformed the way I see it. It transformed the way I live it. It really transformed my approach. It gave me a ministry plan that I could begin working on and saying, this is what I want to do. And I had a lot of direction before that, but this just made it so much more clear and like helped clean up some things. And I learned a lot. So what I'd love to do is just take a minute to pray for you about Multiply School, and invite anybody listening to just keep you in prayer, and to keep all the other students. There's about right now like 14 students from around 4 different countries, maybe 5, that have said, hey, I'm interested. And many have been accepted and went through the whole process. But so I'd like to just pray for you right now, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Lord, I come to you today for Amély, and I thank you for her time on this podcast. And God, you know what she needs. And Lord, she said it herself. You've been chasing her whole life. And now that she is walking in step with you, now that she has a relationship with you, she has this opportunity to go to this crazy thing called Multiply School. And God, I just ask that you would bring her comfort and peace the whole way, that while she's living there, she would make relationships that would be long-lasting, Lord, that she can find other Christians to partner with in ministry, that her family at home and her church family at home are just so supportive and prayerful for her. And Lord, I just pray that Amély's time is transformational, but most of all, Lord, that it results in her coming to know you on a deeper level, and it allows her to equip others to do the same, Lord, that she leaves Multiply School passionate and on fire for you, and ready to equip others to be more devoted followers of Jesus Christ. We love you, Lord. We thank you for this time. We thank you for Amély, and I just give this episode to you, and we give this season of Multiply School that's coming up in January to you. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amély, is there anything else you want to say before we close out the episode?
Be nice. Love
Be
everyone. Thank you for taking me in your team. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited for the future.
Yeah.
It's going to be so fun.
Me too. Our team's been really excited to have you on board, and we love seeing people do video game ministry, and we really like when it's like we get to walk through that with them, and they're a part of our local team here. It's pretty awesome. So thank you, and I guess that's it, everyone. We thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us as we grow the library of satellite stories. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, Jesus loves you, nerds.